Welcome to KAKOVISION, a podcast to pump you up to change the world. Hosted by me, Jordana. Let's get started.
Hi, and welcome to KAKOVISION. I'm Jordana, and I'll be your host. Today, I'm excited to share a conversation I had recently with a great friend of mine. I mentioned her in a previous episode. I've known Meg for over half my life. She has 3 boys between the age of 12 and 8, and Chase and Cooper are 12 and 9, so our kids have grown up together. So last week, I released an episode of Utopia vs. Dystopia that talks about the American healthcare system. If you haven't had a chance to check it out, definitely do that. It should infuriate you. It's one of my favorite that I put together because it shows how absurd the healthcare situation is for the people of the United States. From insurance companies flying people to Mexico for cheaper drugs, to people dying from rationing drugs because of skyrocketing drug prices when the cost to make the drug hasn't changed. And then to executives who are directly benefiting from this, who are incentivized to do it. Look, we can't pick just one industry. When our government stops working in our best interests to the point that we are no longer considered a full democracy, it affects all industries. This all has to be addressed at once. But without a significant shift in the power dynamic, it's not going to happen. And so I think that shift needs to happen in the private market. If you haven't had a chance to check out the intro series that explains what Keiko is and why it's so desperately needed, there's a link to it on the podcast website, along with all of the Utopia vs. Dystopia episodes. But in the simplest forms, Keiko is a community of people who are willing to try something different. And it doesn't cost anything. It's not selling any member data. The community has an app with a ton of amazing features similar to other social media tools. So even if you're not at all into saving the world and using technology for good, you can still be part of it. But basically, if 1% of the population actively starts using this app, then I'll recruit the best and the brightest team to build a tech empire. So basically, in a winner-take-all economy, I think it's more likely that we come together and create a winner than we continue to take the same failing approach of depending 100% on a corrupt political system. Like, yeah, there might be individuals who are not corrupt, but overall, it is not working in the best interest of the people. And on Thursday, I'm going to release an episode on the education system in America, also a disgrace. So Meg and I talked about both of these issues and more. So I decided to make this into a 2-part series. I'll share the first half with you today and save the second for next week. So we caught up after the kids went to sleep, so it was kind of a virtual happy hour. And look, I know that some of you will think, oh yeah, let's all be sorry for the white girl who grew up rich and is now struggling. And yeah, look, I'm sharing this because this could be anyone's friend, anyone's relative. She's making it. She's making it, but barely. She's a good mom, hard worker, awesome friend. Thankfully, her and her husband have a great relationship. But things just keep getting harder and harder for her family. So here it is. Take a listen, and I hope you enjoy. Okay, so tell me about your background. I know we've got a very similar background, that we went to the same high school, and I feel like our situation was comparable. I think you lived in like a McMansion that was a little West Windsor.
So I come from a background where, most everybody especially on my mom's side of the family, did very well. They did very well for themselves. It wasn't like, it's not based on inheritances or anything like that. It's just everybody worked really hard. My grandfather was an accountant. My uncle's an accountant. My mom's actually a nurse, but my dad worked for, PSE&G, but he worked there for as long as I've been alive, so like 40, 39. I think he retired around 39 years or something like that. But he they were always big savers. They were always very smart with their money. Like, everybody in my side of the family is very successful. you could say, financially, secure, planning for the future, the whole nine. You know what I mean? Um, we didn't always plan on living in West Windsor. We actually are from Hamilton, but that was more, you know, we were going to buy another house, and then that kind of fell through. So we ended up having to find a house real fast. And my parents, and it just turned out that it was in West Windsor. So I definitely have the roots of, like, I should have been an accountant or a lawyer or, something like that. And all of my siblings have gone on to do smart things and making really good money and all of that kind of stuff. So now, me, on the other hand, I went to art school because they still encouraged me that I should be an artist and I should paint and sell my artwork and be a rich artist, because they didn't understand, artists starve. So, they let me follow through on that, but here I am, so with an art degree, and I'm like, so I work for, a photo lab, and, to simplify it in its smallest form, but I'm not really sure what my title is, kind of thing, like barely scraping by. My husband's a mechanic, and we're barely scraping by. We're both very good, very, like, throw anything at me, I could probably handle it. You know what I mean? It's just never quite climbed to the top in the way that people behind me have. You know what I mean?
Well, I remember it had to have been like 2 or 3 years ago now, us having a conversation where you were like, Jot and I have both reached our peak, but everything, like, price wise, everything is going up, and like we've cut away all of like the extras, and now we're at this point that it's like, there's nothing else to really cut away.
Absolutely. And so with that, we just did our tax return. So, every year when you look at tax return, you get to see how much you made for the year. And 2020 and 2021 really have not been good years. It's not really a good measure at all. But I actually keep a budget and a spreadsheet where I keep track of it. It's not a gross income, it's a net income, which could get interesting later when you start to really get into the logistics of that. But, I measure what comes into the bank account, what comes out of the bank account. And year over year, 2015 was the year we made the most, but we're talking within 5,000, high and low. Our combined income has not really changed. And in 2015 is when I started to measure it. It's when I started to keep track of things. And from 2015 to, or I'm only going to say till 2019, we've gone down. We've made less and less year over year, in take home. This is just the income that comes into our bank account, you know what I mean, has gone down for the last so many years. And, and then 2020 and 2021, it's tough to even say, because half of that I was partial unemployment, you know what I mean? And it just got really ugly. And then you got the stimulus, just so that 2020, it actually looks like we made a really lot of money, but that's because of the stimulus checks, which saved us. I mean, like, we were one of those. I was in that category of people where I made more during pandemic than I did working full time, or that I would have making for full time, because I was claiming I was working part time. I was furloughed to part time hours, and I was claiming a partial unemployment, but I was still benefiting from that extra 600 a week, and then the extra 300 a week that they were giving everybody. So in the end, that was more than I usually make in a week anyway. I was like, woohoo, this is like an extra paycheck. This is like extra 2 paychecks per month, and I mean, we all want to get back to normalcy, but that does make it difficult. But I also am glad that I'm able to hang out to my job, because now I am back full time. But I'm like, okay, right back where I started, right back exactly where I was in 2019, except I'm not getting overtime now. So it's like,
oh, so you're on salary
tough.
now?
Yeah. So I used to work a bunch of overtime, and now there just isn't. I can barely get 40 hours, and I'm out on an hourly. We're both hourly. Um,
But you were talking about over the years, because Juts, you guys have both been at the same jobs for a long time now, right?
Yes.
And Juts has very good insurance benefits.
No.
No? Or did it used to?
No. It.
When was it like
So
I thought it was like you just sent stuff into them and they took care of it?
It was, so there's a lot of premium. There's a lot that comes out of his paycheck. We've never had deductibles or anything like that. So that's been beneficial. You just go in, you got a copay, and a copay is always like 20, 30, 50, 40, 50, depending. And it every year the plan changes.
It was,
Huh?
remember when it used to be like $5 or $10 and now like
No, I don't even remember that at this point. I'm like, oh, $40? Yeah, sure. Here you go. Once again, just to get another, a med check for the kids or something, because Nathan's every 3 months. Jeremy's got the therapy. It's not even, our insurance changed actually last year. And we had searched for the right therapist and nurse who's on medications. It can't be handled by the pediatrician. Because I tried to do that and they were like, nope, not touching this at all. You need to see the right kind of doctor for this kind of stuff. And it's finally found the perfect therapist, the perfect nurse. We're on a roll, and insurance changes. This place doesn't take it. They don't take our insurance. So now I'm like, okay, we're paying $1,400 a month in premiums out of Justin's paycheck, and which is like another paycheck for us. And you still can't go to the doctor that you want. You can't go to doctor. We have all of our primary care, both mine's, my husband's, the kids have all been bought out or taken over by Advocare. Advocare sends out a letter where we're not going to take United Healthcare anymore. And I'm like, I think we fall in this technical where United Healthcare Oxford or whatever, but like it's this shenanigan. I'm like, so are we covered or are we not covered? I don't even know. Like, do we have to find all new doctors now? And then they go back to he brings it back to the company and they don't know. They're like, oh, we didn't hear anything about this. And we're like, so do we need to find new doctors or like what's happening here? And it's just the convoluted.
You're on your own, right?
You're on your own. You're like, well, I'm going to wing it. And if I get charged, I get charged. And if I get charged, well, I'm screwed because who knows what that's going to be, And that's what you get. That's what you get for the premium, what you pay out the paycheck. It's like,
yeah. It's like when you consider how much you're actually giving.
I really need this health care. I'm not sure I really need this health care. And if it wasn't for mental health.
Yeah. And if it wasn't for our kids, right? Like it would be like, all right, I could deal without it, but you've got to have it for the kids.
But we have medications that we need. We have anxieties. We have depressions. We have, Justin has heart stuff, you know what I mean? And it's like, we have to actually, and they're not going to just write you the prescription out of nowhere and whatever and let you go on your way. Like, you have to go and check in with them the kids, sometimes it's 1 month, 3 months, depending on what it is. For me, it's once a year. So maybe that it's not even worth having insurance at that point.
Yeah.
So that's where we're at. I mean,
And it's good that you got cover, that you found somebody for your kids, especially in the mental health arena right now. It is super hard to even find somebody. Like, I had to have my oldest Skype in from school. Like, he had to VPN in like to the therapist because they don't have any options outside of school hours right now.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what my oldest ran out. He waited till the last day. He says he's run out of medication, and it was on an auto refill, where usually it was. So I lost track of it. I wasn't thinking of it. And then I thought of it and I was like, well, I didn't make an appointment. He probably needs to be checked back with the doctor again. And the very next day he wakes up and he goes, oh, by the way, Mom, my medication's all gone. And I'm like, what? So here I'm rummaging through the drawer for do we have any old, I found he takes 100 milligrams. I found some old 25 milligrams. There was enough. I was like, all right, take 4 of these. because I gotta get you in. You gotta have, and one of them had a refill, but his other medication, they denied it because he hadn't seen the doctor that I'm paying out of pocket for him to see as infrequently as possible, denied the prescription refill. So I'm like, okay, not going to get our serotonin boost this week, or this month for that matter. I got to call in. I got to fight the fight, say, well, he has an appointment, but it's not till the end of the month because it's the soonest you could take him and yada, yada, yada. And I'm pulling him out of school for that appointment, so it's like.
I know that CVS, I think will do like one refill. Like if you're like waiting for, like those minute clinics, if you're like, I am completely out of my medication, they'll do it like once.
Yeah, and that's I need it now. I need it now. This is a regular, because they could tell what those takes. I mean, you take something that's obviously is meant to be taken on a daily, and you need to step into it and step out of it if you're going to go on it or off it. You can't just boom, sorry, doctor couldn't see me for another month. So maybe I'll think of switching to CVS because right now Walgreens. I mean, they even got Walgreens. I don't know what's happening. At least our local. I don't know if it's all of them or just our local one, but it is like at reduced hours. There's the prescription. Every day I'm getting an email telling me that it's filling my prescriptions. And I'm going, no, you're not. There's no prescriptions filling. I'm just getting these emails daily. And I'm like, what is happening? And then I go to actually need one of those prescriptions and I go, oh, the auto renewal turned off, auto refill or whatever. And or, oh, by the way, they're out and, we can't get a hold of your provider or whatever. And I'm like, I can't even handle it, because I'm in charge of my prescriptions. I'm in charge of two of my children, two out of the three kids are on medications. And then my husband's got a ton of medications that he's on his own. I actually picked one of his up yesterday thinking it was mine because it's the same, because we're on the same thing. I'm telling the person, I'm like, hey, it's for me, and she's going, I don't see anything's ready. And I'm pulling up my phone going, it said it was ready. And I'm going, oh, it's for him.
That's good. The last time I was at the pharmacy, they gave me my sister-in-law's prescription and they were just like, you're going to see her, right? You can give it to her. I'm just like, are you supposed to be doing that?
We just need to be able to get the antidepressants and the anti-anxiety stuff over the counter. It's just that because we're all on it and the pharmacy can't handle it. It's absolutely ridiculous. The insurance can't handle it. We just need to buy it like we're buying aspirin,
Yeah.
Yeah, I have to call every month. I've been on Adderall for ADD for years now. And I still have to call every month. And my ADD, usually it's like a day or 2 days before. And I'm like, oh shit, I've got like 2 pills left. I've got to call. Yep. And then it's like, the doctor is only in twice a week. We'll get back to you in like another week. It's like, okay.
Why is the doctor only in twice a week? This doesn't make sense. You need to have someone else manning those prescriptions because that's just...
Well, and even why do I need to call somebody every month for a prescription? I can understand maybe if it's at the beginning, but like after you've been on, a medicine for so long, it's like, why do we have to go through this each month? Yeah. It's just like, it's an extra hurdle that like doesn't need to be in place. It's just there.
It doesn't need to. It is. And that's with, my second child is an ADHD medication, and if he does not have that, he's flunking school. And there was one day at the beginning of the year, and his new teacher, it was a new year, I hadn't gotten to talk to the teacher yet. It was like within the first 3 weeks of school or something, and there was one day we forgot to give him the medicine because he won't remember to take the medicine. We have to be like, take your medicine today? No, I didn't. No, here you go, take it, And we forgot, so he forgot. And by noon, the teacher had him call home. She was like, instructed him, here's your phone number, here's your mom's phone number. You're going to call her and you're going to tell her that you've been misbehaving and not cooperating in class today. And that you're doing your assignment. So you're just kind of like goofing off. And the first thing I said was, Nathan, did we forget to give you medicine this morning? And sure enough, he didn't take his medicine. I think the teacher heard that. And soon after we had, the back to school night and the teacher conferences since then and everything, where I was like, that day, that's like, if he's like that, he must have missed his medicine. It's night or day. And you go to the doctor. And right now I have actually, at the moment, because he goes to the doctor Monday for a med check, and so that he can get more. And he has 3 left, Friday and Monday. And then he has that one extra because he doesn't like to take it on the weekends. And I'm like, well, thank goodness you don't take it on the weekends, because otherwise you wouldn't have enough. I would be like, sorry, kid, you're not taking it on the weekends this week.
And it's lucky, because that's a medicine that it's like you can go without it. It might affect your behavior. Like, you're not going to go through withdrawal though from it.
Right.
But there are medicines that it's like, if you don't have them.
And it's my other sons where they deny the prescription because it's been 4 months instead of 3 months since we last saw the nurse. And it's like, okay, but and then you call the therapist office, and they say, for prescriptions, press this number. And then you get in there and they're like, if you need a prescription refilled, contact your pharmacy and have them send a request to this, and then I'm like, okay, that's what I did. And then they still denied it, so now I'm like, they're like, only leave a message if it's for an extremely controlled substance. And I'm like, well, it's not like that, but I'm going to be forced to leave a message here because I can't get it from any angle. Like, kid's got an appointment. It's a month away, but I need this now, and you can't even do it.
Yeah.
Red tape everywhere.
Yep. So Cooper had his first seizure at your house.
He sure did.
He sure
on the
did.
trampoline.
Yes, he
all
did.
The kids didn't know what was going on. They're jumping around him. They're going, he just looked up at the sky and then dropped. They were like, we thought he died. And yeah, that was interesting. And then he had more after that. So
he only had one more. But the next one was like a very clear grand mal, like the one at your house. It was kind of like, what was going on? And even when I took him to the emergency center or whatever that place was, I don't think it was an ER. I don't even.
It was like a Med Express, but it might not have been it may not be Med Express anymore. But it's one of those walk-in clinic places that they do now, which are great, but for basic stuff, really.
And even if we took him to a regular ER, I don't think that they would have done all of the tests initially. They would have been like, all right, he's okay. He can go to a doctor and, whatever. But
yeah,
he is on this medicine that is awful. It's a Keppra, and it like changes his personality. And it's gotten a lot better. Like when he first was on, they put him on it as soon as he had the grand mal at school, because that was his second seizure. And by that point, the EEG came back, and it was like, okay, there's epilepsy. So he was on the medicine right away, and his class was so worried, because can you imagine like being in class and then all of a sudden in like second grade, I just have a kid drop and start seizing like that would.
It's scary.
Yeah, I had a dog when I was younger that would seize, and like I knew that it wasn't quite. Most of the time, it's not that severe. It looks worse than it is. It's like they're really tired afterwards. They don't remember, but it's a scary event more for the people around them. And so they had a doctor that like Skyped in that afternoon, and like the class makes them this whole like get well card, and he was having none of it. He was just like I want nothing to do with you guys.
Like, I don't even know what you guys are talking about.
Well, and then he was on like the medicine, and that was the first couple of days, and it was just like I'm so happy that he is okay. But I am so sorry that he's acting like right now, it's like, what else do you say? But yeah, that medicine, it's like, I've had to get in touch with the pharmacy and be like, look, he is like one day away from being out of epilepsy medicine. I don't care what we need to do here, we just need to get that medicine, like, and they're calling one pharmacy because Jeff had taken him to Delaware the month before. So I think they transferred the prescription and they're trying to transfer it back.
Oh, brother.
It's just like what you're talking about. It's just like this red tape. And meanwhile, you've got people that are depending on the medicine and not getting it,
Yeah.
Which is crazy.
You're literally depending on these. It's a retail thing that's really depending on it's their doctor's office is a business. That business isn't running so smoothly. You're not going to get what you need. You're going to same with the pharmacy. It's like what we're going through with Walgreens. It was like for the past 6 months, you could only pick up a prescription. The pharmacy's only open from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. So if you work 9 to 5, when are you getting your prescription from? So I've had to go over there in the middle of the day because luckily I work from home. So, husband will be like, oh, I got some prescription at the pharmacy. I need to be picked up. They've been there for a week now. I haven't been able to get there in time. On his day off, he just forgets or whatever, on the weekend, you got things going on. You're just not thinking about it. You're like, oh, yeah, I got to pick up this prescription. It's nice to be able to go out and do it at 7 o'clock at night if you're like, oh, yeah, now the day is finally like taken care of. But you're not even here. So he's like,
and that's the difference between like CVS and Plainsboro Pharmacy. CVS has hours that they're officially open, but you're going to be waiting there for like an hour to pick up a prescription, especially like the one in Plainsboro that's right by the hospital. It's like, it is so understaffed and so over like booked. Everything, it's you can't just walk in there and walk out. Like Plainsboro Pharmacy, you can. And like if they don't have it, they'll do whatever they need to do to get you the medicine.
Like a mom and pop kind of.
Yes. But that means that they close at 5.
You know what? And my neighbors have that. They one. It's like a My Family Pharmacy kind of thing. And she was telling me, she's like, you just need to go there because they'll actually take care of you though. Like they may have more limited hours, or it might not be like this full robust, like in case you need to pick up, hair dye and shampoo and makeup all at the same, diaper. Who knows what you need? At the pharmacy, sometimes you're like, kill 5 birds with one stone kind of thing. And, you can't always do that. But at this place, it was way fancy inside. They were like selling toys or whatever. Like it wasn't like walking into a Walgreens or a CVS or a Rite Aid. It's like completely like it's way smaller. First of all, it's like the main thing is the pharmacy, and there's a couple other things for sale, but you're like, what is happening in here? Because I went there looking for a COVID test when they didn't have COVID tests anywhere. And I was like, what is this place? But they have actual relationships with their customers, so it's like they probably would be the ones to say, all right, I'm gonna do this for you.
Oh yeah,
better pan out.
They've literally like taken medicine and like given like 2 days supply and been like, well, we'll cover you.
I
like
see you die. So
we kind of like our customers. We want them to come back. You're not gonna get that at a CVS. You're just not.
Yeah.
Thankfully, because I'm like you, I'm working from home. It doesn't matter that they close at 5. I'm going to stop it there and save the rest for next week's episode. So thanks for listening. See you next Tuesday.
Keiko, the social app. K-A-K-O. Keiko, the social app. K-A-K-O. Keiko, the social app. Keiko rules. Keiko, the social app. Billionaire greed. Keiko, the social app. Destroying America. Keiko, the social app. T-minus 7 years and counting. Keiko, the social app.